Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Swiz.
And thank you for joining us. This is the Western Bulldogs team analysis, also known as the team that ruined my dreams by 1 point in the finals last year, boys. Very dynamic, exciting to watch. I was pretty much rooting for them the whole time, except until they rooted me. So, how are we looking at them, boys? They're a little bit short on the preseason, but the doggies have something to fight for this year, boys. Are you optimistic coming into this year, Chris?
Oh, look, I think the doggies will be good. Obviously, I think top 4 or 5. I think there's a clear top 5 teams that usually conspire. And I think doggies are one of them. So where they sit in top 5 is going to be anyone's guess. They obviously will have a hard draw this year because of where they sat last year. They have the best midfield in the comp, bar none. Their forward line is improving. They still have Ugle Hagen coming through. Their defence has improved over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, look, the doggies could go all the way like this year. I mean, I know obviously they almost made it last year, but they could go all the way this year.
Their draw is actually resembling of Trelaw because a lot of it, you're talking about how, obviously the tough draw and stuff, but a lot of it's back-ended, boys. So I call it the Trelaw factor, where pretty much it starts off nice and easy, and a lot of it is the problem is in the back end, as Collingwood finances would know. Swiz, do you want to talk about the start to the year, mate? Because it looks very, very, very exciting and kind of tempting to start as many doggies as you can.
Yeah, well, mate, I'm all on the doggy train. I was on them last year as the flag, and for 3 quarters there, they look like winning the premiership, and I'm on them again. As much as good as the D's are, I'm all in on the doggies. I think they've got the best midfield in the game and the back line to do it. And you look at their start, the D's is going to be a massive match. Melbourne, unveiling the flag. But so that could go either way. The Blue Baggers at home, Swanee's at home, Richmond, who they've had the wood on us for a little while. North, they belted by about 120 points in that Good Friday game last year. The Crows at Mars, they're pretty well unbeatable up at Ballarat. The Bombers also at Marvel, so they've got a lot of games under the roof at over there in Docklands. Then they play Port, and then it's the Pies. The Suns back at Mars. Oof, that could be a fucking belting. The Eagles, well, there's another belting. And then you get into that bye period. But, yeah, they do love to beat up teams at their home deck, and especially up in the cold of Ballarat.
Especially round 5 and 6, and then I think it's 10 and 11 or something like that. So you look at so the first 4 games, right? Not too bad, but then 5 and 6, you're not going to be able to upgrade in time in order for these Dogs players to play North, to play Adelaide. You're not going to be able to upgrade your players in time to jump on, which is kind of why it's tempting. The people that have a high ceiling. So your Dunkleys, right, perfect for there. Trelaw can go well if he's fit and, has been known to average, large amounts of points before. Mcrae as well. He just does what he has to do week in, week out, super consistent, but he can easily get on the outside against some weaker teams. So it's really tempting.
I think this year, more than any, especially the Bulldogs, are a huge, huge candidate for super trades, because you got to realise in round 3, which I think is where most people will spend that first super trade, and just so for those who don't know the new rules and how it's all set up, is that you've got 5 times a year when you can say, yep, I want to use an extra trade this week. And I think round 3, you kind of have to use it. And it could be one where you go, okay, well, my mid-price forward isn't working. I need to go either one down, one up and try and get someone like a Trelaw, or if you didn't start Dunkley and he's absolutely popping off, you've got to get him before his price rise. And I think that once we've established that over the first 2 games as to how those midfielders are going to be playing, where they're going to be playing, and what their scoring potential looks like, then we can go, okay, I'm going to lock in X or I'm going to lock in Y, and you can adjust your team around that. So they're definitely a candidate because, like you say, those early run of games is just so powerful that you don't want to miss that boat. You don't want to get to the buys and be like, oh, well, I'm going to jump on that. But
I want to touch on these extra trades real briefly. So that for me, there's 3 strategies. And then it's funny because some people are saying, oh, the trades don't change much, right? And I've seen some different chat forums. I've seen chat forums where they're saying, oh, trades don't change much because we're going to need the trades for injuries and whatever. I'm like, well, you can't go in there expecting chaos. Do you know what I mean? Because usually you try and trade based on your premiums and you leave some up your sleeve and you hope to get lucky. That's kind of how the game works. So for me, number one is that third round buffer. Get on someone before the price changes. Get an extra rookie that you haven't got if you completely shit the bed, that is. Second one is, right now that you have more trades, you could actually start, and I know we always go for 12 premiums, and I love 12 premiums, and I have, I think, 13 premiums in my side at the moment, but it can now actually say, voice the reason, you might actually be able to start slightly less premiums and be more aggressive with your trades and use some of those extra trades to upgrade your mid prices sooner. Go super aggressive, get your berries, your rainers, and literally by sort of round 5, 6, 7, 8, you've just gone bang, 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 and just gone upgrades.
Or the other side of that is, oh, fuck, these mid prices aren't working. Fucking trade them to rookies, bang, so that you can get the premiums that you're missing to really fix your side. You got 5 trades to essentially fix your side that you didn't have last year. Well, actually, you ended up with 34 last year, but that's...
And the third one is being extremely aggressive over the buys.
Not to mention, we're going to get more trades again during the season.
But you have three trades in the buys, plus you can then add the trade boost as well, I believe.
Yes, you can.
So you could be extremely aggressive during the buy period to make sure, A, you have a full complement of 18, but also
you have to be fully upgraded by the end of the buys. There is no excuse this year.
Yep, that's correct. So that's why I mean those mid prices kind of could be advantageous because you can go one down, one up, bang, you're done. And use some of those trades really aggressively early. And you could have more premiums than other people if you are extremely aggressive early on. It's just a theory and you need rookies, obviously, to play their part. But it's what I'm watching for.
Swiz, what do you think about the trades this year and how that's going to impact everything?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think different people are going to use it different ways. Some people are going to be worried about COVID, so they're going to hold. Other people are going to be super aggressive and try to get their team upgraded as quickly as possible. It's all going to depend on injuries too. Like if people have to use them early for their injuries, buy period's going to be very good time because you're going to have those 4 trades a week. So I think those the second and third rounds of the buy, you're going to see a lot of people doing 8 trades. So yeah, I think it brings in a whole lot of different strategies, and we're going to know a lot about how people are playing in those first few weeks.
Yeah, and look, exactly what you just said there at the end hits the nail on the head. There's going to be so many different strategies this year than there ever has been. And so when you're talking to people and they're saying, no, it doesn't change anything, I think that's just absolute fucking bullshit.
It changes. Just those 2 things alone, extra trades and being able to trade an additional 5 times.
It's huge.
It changes.
Imagine going into last year knowing you had 34 trades. That changes things in itself, let alone... coming into this year, knowing you got 35 trades, you've got an extra trade that you can use at any time. All of this is just completely different. So, yeah, I don't agree with the theory that nothing changes. I think that's absolute rubbish.
Me too. I do agree. Interesting. All right, so let's move on to these premiums, boys. Jack Mcrae, 699,000, basically as close to 700 as you can get. 22 games, average 128.6. Extremely consistent throughout the year. Basically, the first third, 127. The second third, 127. The third, 131 average. Extremely durable, consistent, 7 130s, 5 140s. Now, here's the key kicker, though. I was telling Swiz, on the negative side, only 1 score over 150 in 2021. And the positive is he had a low score of 97. So he only dropped below 100 once. So that's a consistency we're looking at.
He just finds the ball.
But when we talk about damage factor, right? So consistent, soft draw, I want Mcrae. Based on, I think he's just going to be consistent. I'm not going to be able to afford him later, so I might as well get him now because of that soft run to start. But Steele went 150 5 times. Still has hurt factor that Mcrae doesn't have at this point.
I agree with you, 100%.
Swiz?
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about that. It all depends on how many of these doggies are fit. Like, we know how good of a player Treloar is. It just, he's sort of had that up and down injury history. You've got Dunks, who's had a more freaking accident injury last year, which took him out. That saw that spike in Mcrae scoring when both of them, went out. They're trying to get the time into Bailey Smith when he's right to go, and that's not then discounting Libbar and Bont.
Yeah,
so and even Lockie Hunter on the wing. So they've got so many guys who score well, and if they're all in, it doesn't matter how much they're winning by. There's a limit to Supercoach points. So I think Mcrae, if everyone's fit and firing, he's got a cap to him. If injuries start happening, well, you want to be on the Mcrae train.
And we'll move on to Bonsanpelli because it ties in with
Good
a whole
segue.
bunch of other people.
Yeah.
651,000 average, 119.7, so really close to that 120. Now, here's the thing with me. Right, they had Mcrae, Dunkley, Treloar in quite a few of those games. I think all of them played about 6 or 7 games out of that first one. Bonsanpelli went about 114.6, so respectable, 114.6. Then they had a whole bunch of injuries. Dunkley went down. Treloar didn't play many. I think he played 3 games out of the next sort of 7 or 8. And Bonsanpelli went 137.8, 137.3, should I say.
And then what happened in the end?
And then Treloar sort of comes back and plays a few games. Dunkley sort of comes back towards, was it right back at the end of the year?
Yeah.
And he played 5 games at that point, right? And then all of a sudden, Bonsanpelli goes 104.9 for the last 7.
I think the flat blanket rule is this. If they have a full complemented team, then I think he's capped at 110 because I think he plays too much time forward. And don't get me wrong, he can score as a forward.
Just a team player, though.
And exactly right. So does that make him a top 8 mid? Maybe. But at his price, are you investing in him to start?
No. And not only that, Bonsanpelli, it's the Petrarca, it's the impact players where they have, as we say, high highs and low lows. You know Bond's going to throw a couple of lower games in there, so you'll be able to pick him up cheaper, whereas Mcrae doesn't give you low games.
No. He's going to be consistent the whole way through. I don't actually, don't get me wrong, I don't actually hate Bont because of the start of the season.
And he went 153 times. He has a high ceiling, but he does drop.
If you think, okay, let's say even if he does play forward, you want to get him at the start if he's playing forward because they're going to be absolutely destroying teams. So starting Bont's not necessarily a bad thing. I think he's over the year, I think he's probably capped. I think he's probably 110 to 115, and I don't think that's enough at his price point to justify a starting selection.
Yeah.
Swiz?
So my theory on Bont last year, outside that 145 against West Coast in round 2, there was the 82, the 92 in there, and then Dunkley went down after round 6. So against the Blues, he got that 155, Port 128. And then Treloar went halfway through the St Kilda match. All of a sudden, Bont 159, 125, 149, 143, 156.
Huge.
Then Dunkley came back, and then Treloar came back, and then Bont was 93, 136, 87, 114, 67. So it just shows, Chris likes a good correlation, and that's when those guys are in, Bont goes forward. If those guys are out,
also
Bont you need to have.
Sorry, Swiz. It's me that likes the correlation.
Mate.
Chris likes
giving Chris.
He likes smoke and mirrors,
shit.
mate. He likes smoke and mirrors.
But I will say this: if there was and this is it's his curse and a good thing as well. Bont, in my opinion, is their best midfielder, but he's also one of their best forwards, and obviously that counteracts against each other. What that means though is that if he's playing midfield, he's going to cop some attention. He doesn't. He virtually never just runs through midfield without attention. So if there's someone that they want to tag, it's usually him because Mcrae will just find the pill.
It's kind of like the old rugby league. What is it? Walkers on. As soon as Bonsanpelli moves into the midfield, they're like, Bont's in the midfield.
Bont's in the midfield.
Absolutely. Get on him.
And as soon as that happens, they've got to have attention on him because he's just too damaging to be left outside.
Or if they don't see him, he'll just rack it up and tear them a new one. They're like, oh, yeah, Bonsanpelli, right, let's get on him.
Mcrae's death to 1,000 cuts, but those cuts are like, we can deal with it.
If Bont played 22 games in the midfield, he wins the Brownlow.
Oh, I guarantee. Absolutely. Yep. Sold.
2 years' time, I reckon.
Unfortunately, he's also the captain of the football club and he's just trying to do the best thing for the Bulldogs, which is for him to play a mix of mid and forward, to be honest.
Yep.
So
exactly.
2024, I think Bonsanpelli wins there. Boys, moving on. There's so much relevance. Josh Dunkley, mid forward, 558,000. We know that's completely under the average, 102.5. He's torn it up a lot before. First 6 games last year went 129. Did syndesmosis. Wasn't quite right when he came back. Then started to, which has happened twice now. When he gets injured, it's kind of like Bevo just goes, right, you're injured, I'll just move on without you.
Oh, it happens with a lot of players.
Yeah, and then they
start playing forward, but
it's like,
back
we'll move
into
on without you, and then the other person that's doing your role is doing a good job. So it's like, well, they get first crack. You've just got to kind of come in and fill and do it.
And Bevo's classic like that.
It's like, well, mate, you went down.
You got to work it back.
You went on holiday. We got someone else to fill your role, and they're doing your role pretty well. We're winning games. So guess what? You're going to have to do something else until they shit the bed, and you can prove that you can take that instead.
Still one of the best first possession players in the entire competition, by the way, Josh Dunkley. So
CBA, contested ball, did enough on the weekend, but you're like, I looked at him, I was like, okay, he did enough.
Did enough. He scored 124, didn't he?
Yeah, but it didn't look like he was absolutely dominating.
Because
he's contested ball.
He's in
gets
an underwork.
in there, yeah, CBAs, and then he can also get forward.
He's Patrick Cripps, but can spread from a contest.
I'll talk a bit about his game the other day because I was watching that closely. But had a question there for Nico, asking, do you think the Dogs are going to back Dunkley in because it's his last year of his contract? And we saw that the year before when there was all that talk about him possibly going to Essendon, and then he started in the midfield and started like a house on fire. And then, as you said, when he came back in, was playing that more defensive role. But on the weekend, what was it, last Wednesday against the Bombers? Yeah, it seemed like he was all around the ball, just playing kind of similar to what Mcrae was doing. The only difference between him and Mcrae was Dunkley was going a little bit more by foot and was butchering the ball. So his game probably could have been a bit higher because he kept getting the ball and turning it over.
His footwork
is got lucky with some of those kicks.
His handwork is amazing, but his footwork's not the best. But I mean, don't get me wrong, he can still kick a goal, so who gives a shit, right? So,
and if you don't know if he's coming or going, right, then realistically, you playing him in the guts is just going to increase his trade value anyway. Why play him forward and go, okay, cool. Well, it's like, yeah, look, Dunkley's really good, but we'll give you a late first round or whatever. Or if he's dominating, plays midfield this year, tears the competition apart because you're like, right, you're a midfielder, go play midfield, or a big chop out, and then hey, look, you're playing Carlton, go forward and kick a few goals again like you have previously. But his trade value goes up. So if he does decide to leave, then at least it's a little bit of reassurance, like, hey, like this guy might leave, but at least we'll get good value.
I mean, he's a free agent, and that he's actually played longer. He probably has played longer.
Yeah, he will be a free agent at the end of the year.
Free agent.
Yeah.
Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
8 years.
So 7 years.
Yeah, this is 8 years. Yeah. And so here's the thing with Dunkley as well. I mean, he gets a free pass because he's a forward, right? And he's arguably, you could make a fucking argument that Josh Dunkley is the best Supercoach player in Supercoach. He could potentially be the best Supercoach. You could make an argument.
Well, he has the best ceiling of any forward we have.
No, he could be the best midfielder. He could be the number one Supercoach player this year as a forward.
Yeah. Well, that year,
I can make that argument.
That year, 3 seasons ago, when he went 116, and that when he actually
and the back end was like 135 or something stupid. Like,
yeah, exactly. So if they were playing him, and as we talked about, because Bont will do the team thing, if Dunkley's in the guts, that he could go absolutely massive. Like he could be 10 to 15 points undervalued.
And what happens if he does get traded in the year? He has to be the number one, right?
Yep.
It's got to be the guy that you go, okay, well, this is a lock.
Even Adam Treloar even came out saying he'll do the Will Gould thing and deliver water. He just doesn't want to play for Collingwood, boys. He's happy. He's happy just doing whatever the team wants him to do. Yeah, cool, mate. I'll play wing. I'll play forward. Did you tell me what I'm doing?
Mate, he's the only guy in the entire AFL who's lost two grand finals.
Mate, he's like Scrappy. Oh, he's like Scrappy Doo. He's like,
sorry,
let me at him. Let me at him.
Love you, Adam. I really do. You're actually one of my favourite players of all time. You even had a
swish. How dare you?
I shouldn't have said that. He upset me about Collingwood and I got antsy and I love you, Adam. And I love your family. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
We're good.
Okay, so moving on now. Let's have a quick look. I want to touch on another one, a little bit left field here, boys, before we kind of get on to a little bit more of a Treloar and a Tim English kind of vibe. Bailey Dale has to be recognised, boys. 518K, 22 games, 95 average.
Super consistent.
But not only that, he was dominating just coming out. He was, elite by foot. He was taking more kickouts than Caleb Daniel. Went big in the, the trial game. Bailey Dale, it's a smoky because no one really picks him. He doesn't really get a whole bunch of attention, but for standard, I could see value. Right, even though I see probably better options elsewhere, but he could be the smoky under the radar in draft leagues as well. Bailey Dale could be in for a low 100 average this year, boys.
Swiz, take this one because I don't want to just knock him off his perch.
Yeah, I probably like him more than Caleb Daniel, as much as the little helmet, does a job and we know what he does. But yeah, he looked so good the other day. He was the one they were looking for coming out of defence. My only problem is because of all those Dogs players, I just think he's capped where, Ridley, Short, even Sick Dog.
There's just so many other options.
They've all got, there's so many options with more value where I think we know what Bailey Dale, I think at best he's got 5 points in him, at best.
Yes.
That's what I think, 100 and then Daniel probably goes to an 89.
Swiz nailhead. Like, absolutely. I mean, at his price, you just wouldn't pick him.
I've I've heard of people looking to go there, Chris. I'm trying to be optimistic for some of the listeners. It's not a one-way street.
No,
It
he's
isn't.
not. He's not a terrible
No,
option.
he's not.
But
I
He's
think
gonna
he
be
averages
consistent.
100.
Yeah, absolutely.
In
I
draft
just think
leagues, I
there's
think
better
100.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you're going to get on him, look, start him because that soft draw at the start, they're going to get a lot of Supercoach points. But I always hate, I mean, it's stupid to say when you're talking about Dogs because, I mean, look at how many guys have got Supercoach relevant. And then they've got about 6 or 7 guys that literally, are you still on a list? Like,
Former five captain Mitch Wallace.
literally case in point.
Hey, I'm just surprised Dalhouse is still playing at Geelong, boys, but former Dog.
Yeah, no, I don't hate Bailey Dale. I just think that there's like if you're going at that price,
Short, a little bit more.
12K more gets you Short, 18K less gets you Whitfield, 70K less gets you Sicily, and
$118,000 less, and you
gets you a Georgie Howard.
Shoot.
Yeah, you
See, I
did.
set you up for that one.
Yeah, you did. I did.
Assist.
That
Okay.
was a video joke as well for those playing at home. I hope you enjoyed that one for YouTube.
And this is why Chris doesn't drink over multiple pods. This is like a flashback to the end of season. Okay, boys, moving on. Adam Treloar as a forward option. As a midfielder, shit pick, you wouldn't go there. Draft leagues maybe on a bench or like your M8 to M7 or whatever you're doing in draft leagues. However, as a forward, he is very tempting, boys, because he has averaged, 111, 17, or 115? He's pushed up there before, boys.
Playing for the greatest club of all time, at times.
Fuck up, Chris. First 7 games last year, averaged 101.6. He could definitely push that 100 barrier, and as a forward, that is pretty much what you're looking for. Swiz, do you think if his body holds up, right, is it someone that you might be like, hey, I'll start with him, because if they get injured, I can at least get them out, instead of if he starts popping off with their soft draw, which Treloar probably does love a good seagull, it's going to be harder to bring them in, and you might burn 2 trades. What do you think?
Yeah, no, sorry, boys. I was just distracted there for a second. I just found out my wife's grandma just died, so congratulations to her family.
Bloody.
And that wasn't what I was expecting while I was doing the pod there. But moving on, I think you're talking about Treloar. Like we saw what he did at over at Collingwood. It was at 116. So I'm looking at Dunkley there. What do we have, Treloar? So
Swiz, you go be with your missus,
it's all
mate,
good.
and we can
No,
finish.
at Collingwood there, he had 111, 101, 109, 113. So, the guy's just a genuine gun midfielder. And even in the 8 games he played the previous year, 109. So I think he's massively undervalued. We saw what he did in the grand final last year, and even the prelim final where the 123, 122 looked so good the other day. Can get forward to kick goals. So as a forward pick at his price, I do think there's a lot of value there, and I'm not against the pick, and I think 15% have him in at the moment. So if you've got that little bit of extra cash and you're worried about Heaney, I don't mind the going up to Treloar.
Well, Heaney and Treloar, Heaney has body issues. Heaney has role issues.
Treloar doesn't. And this is why I'm looking at Treloar. And if you're going to get on him, you got to start him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
At his price, at the draw, like there's no reason to not start him unless, and I actually don't, I hate the pick. So if I'm looking at if I go rewind back to the start of when Supercoach opened, I looked at Adam Treloar and I'm like, no chance. Literally no chance. But not one forward presents itself as an absolute lock outside of Dunkley. And now you're like, okay, well, do I run both? So if you're already locking in Dunkley, because I kind of think you have to, do you run both?
Yeah, it's tough. And if you're running Mcrae and you think Bonds might in the mix, then it's a tough one. But now, if we went back a few years, though, if you had Adam Treloar as a forward option, you would lock that in and you would say he would be 80% owned.
It's different.
Yeah, I know. But still, going back, you would sort of
Chris, you know a bit more about him because obviously he's played for the Pies those last 3-4 years, and he just shit me up the wall because he thought Collingwood had a better list. That worked out well for him. But what do you actually realistically think he could average at the Bulldogs?
I think that he's definitely someone who can average 100 at the best. The problem is, so in those, and you were right in bringing up the finals game because that's when he actually really shone. But in the elimination final, he got 46. So the difference between his best and his worst used to be overcome by his accumulation because he just gets so much ball. It doesn't really matter how badly he kicks. In the prelim and in the final, he kicked goals, and that's what accelerated his score up to that sort of 120 mark. if he's going to be playing this amount of forward mid split, he needs to kick goals for him to average decent. So, and I do think he can, but he's capped. At Collingwood, he could be a 110, 115 averaging player. At the Dogs, I think maximum 100, 105, which is good enough as a forward. It's good enough. The problem is still, okay, so let's say he does that, but he also got the injury concern of an Adam Treloar, who over the last 3 seasons has shown that he cannot stay on the park, let alone for, 13 games is his most he's had in the last 3 seasons, is it? He used to be very reliable. Then he's done his both hamstrings at once. And then
his last 3, he had 13 last year, 8, 22 that year in 2019, and then the year before was 13.
Yeah.
So he's just had the 1 year where he's played the full.
And unfortunately, it's
average
soft
at the
tissue.
full year?
That's the problem.
The full year was
all
113,
soft tissue.
which was his best year.
So if he gets 22 games, he's going 110, boys.
Nah, no chance. Not with that midfield, he's not.
Yeah, he could go one. I could see him going 105.
Yeah, at a peak. Yeah, at a peak.
But it's one of those ones with the soft draw. He's definitely someone that could see goal.
It's just his. If it wasn't soft tissue, you'd be like, you're looking at him. But I don't think you can.
Yeah, interesting. It's a tough one, and I'm looking at definitely this weekend as the if he impresses me enough this weekend, you might be like, look, let's roll the dice. This weekend, I'm looking at a few players in depth.
Again, he's in more of a mix now because Heaney's just, you know, whatever, with Papley as well. And then DeGo's just gone and done a rib. So the other 2 candidates that would be the guys that you would have instead of him, they're out the window.
I heard DeGo is so injured, he's even considering calling himself Prince.
What?
Just removing a rib? No, Prince.
He's like Marilyn Manson.
He's like, hey, Mr. Jordan, you seem to have broken a rib. And he's like, oh, yeah, just remove that one, mate.
Just take it out.
Just take that one out.
She'll be right.
Yep.
Moving on, Benny.
Crunches.
This was a question from young Riley. His dad's an absolute legend. No Paney, who will be tuning into the show. But yeah, Riley's asked me about Timmy English, and I know we've had a lot of discussions about the ruck. Could you see a world where you start Tim English in the rucks and then move him down the forwards and be a possible top 6 forward with cover for the rucks?
Right. First of all, your friend Riley is living up to his last name by being a pain, sending in fucking questions during pod time. So that's the first thing. Let's get this right off the bat. Riley, fucking pain. Now, Tim English, ruck forward. Now, I've actually considered this, right? So he's 482,000. With the ruck dilemma that's going on at this time, I was like, okay, well, could English push? You know, because he's
definitely a watch, right?
English did have that. What, he got 200 one game. So that's a glimpse. Now, Steph Martin worries me. He's old. I'm hoping Steph Martin kind of falls over. I'm hoping, or a forward.
Is that because he went to another club or because?
No. It's more selfishness for English, but
he's friends with Jared Pollock, isn't he?
Or like Ugle Hagen or Shaki or Bruce, was it Bruce? Bruce comes back in or something. They have a forward line that stands up, that they don't need Bonsanpelli. They don't need English to actually hold them together with a bunch of sticky tape. If that happens, right, either Steph Martin goes down or the forward line decides to show up and Ugle Hayden decides to actually, hey, boys, I'm actually a top pick and I can actually lead, from example, then it is very well noteworthy and considering, because Tim English, you could 482 or whatever it is, 482,000, you could put him in your ruck line and have that swing option. At least that way, you know, I'll see what the best rucks are, because at the moment there's a bit of a blanket over, 2, 3, 4. You have your Nick Nats, you have your Gawns, you have your Darcys, even Riley O'Brien, could at his best push those top rucks. So you can wait and see, and then once you know the ruck you want, then bang, English into that forward line, bang, I upgrade and I have my ruck, and other people will be stuck in a set and forget. If Gorney's only going a 105 or a 110 because Jackson's playing, if Darcy's killing it, then you don't want to be handcuffed. So it's one of those years where Gawn and Grundy, I'm starting to lean towards as more as security, but I have had English at my R2, and I'm waiting to see how the Dogs set up with their soft draw and how their ruck line sets up, Chris.
I have to agree in a lot of what you said. I am heavily considering English.
Talking about Riley being a pain, or
yes, absolutely. Riley being
fucking Swiz.
Mate,
this isn't mailbag.
Mate, Riles is a good guy. And good cricket.
Oh, his name's Riles now. Okay, he's
Riles,
just changed it up.
Mate, I have to talk to you.
Swiz thinks this is Jock Reynolds' fucking mailbag.
Yeah,
Sending in
mate.
all the
Mate,
boys'
well,
questions.
Mate, the people want. The people have got questions.
No, I agree. Yeah, he's got more friends than us, all three of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Chris, speak for yourself, mate. I had a friend, but he used to shop for podcasts, you fucking bastard.
It's all right, mate. There's another
Okay.
wedding that I'll get you involved in.
Oh, hey, and you better not have Mercer as your best man. He fucking butchered that. I tell you what, pretty much gets up there. Oh, Chris, so yes, I'm pretty much using the same speech, and it's lovely. And he repeated it 3 times. It's lovely to have Chris have me as his best man again. And,
He could literally
I never thought he would be married again. And thanks. And
third time's a charm, you know.
Have you ever actually been a best man in the wedding? You got to do the speech, and you got to say, how good looking the bride.
No, I haven't
is.
because
And
Ben
that-
hasn't had a wedding yet.
Oh,
so-
really? And when your mates
You'd
mate's
be
other half
MC.
isn't attractive,
exactly
and you've got to
right.
actually say that.
I have been best man, and the friend's missus was a redhead, so I used some poker analogy on, she's the red you gave her the red of diamonds, and now she's the red of hearts or some bullshit.
Oh, look at this guy.
Shout out to
Is
Matty
it-
Davison.
He's a little bit cute, this guy.
Yeah, I'm not
Sure.
shouting out my mate because I hope he never
Shout out
listens
to-
to this because he'll be like, "What do you mean, my
And shout out
wife's not
to
attractive?"
Stuart Davison, who's been a keen listener, saying, "Boys, when you're releasing more podcasts," which is funny because he actually just hits me up on Facebook, not to say hi, Stuart, fuck you.
Because he actually doesn't
Send in
like
a
us
video,
at all.
Stuart. We'll get you on, mate.
Well, yeah,
Auditions.
I've told both Damien and Stuart they should just call in one night.
We can call them in. Anyway,
Absolutely.
talk
Anyway,
about
so Tim English, I'm actually very, very interested. His price point's obviously very interesting as well because you can start him as a forward or a ruck, or start him as a ruck and moving forward because obviously we've got Charlie Comben there. So
Yep.
especially with the uncertainty of Bruce, I've actually looked heavily at if Bruce doesn't come up, how do I change my side? And to me, Tim English is the most obvious selection.
It's notorious of the English, mate. They swing both ways.
That's
The
classic English.
the
Can't fucking
thing
trust
I
him.
don't mind about English is, we talk about like Riley O and Darcy and that you want to see that ceiling of scoring. He has got a 204, which
Yep.
was only the year before.
Thanks, Perth. I said that 2 hours
What
ago.
we do know though as well, but what we do know as well is
I did. I said English
I
had
know.
200.
Oh, mate, I didn't hear you.
what we do know is
You're
about
right, mate,
English
you're
is that unfortunately Bevo doesn't rate him as a fucking ruckman, right?
That is the worry.
Yeah.
So
But he just signed a 2-year contract extension.
yeah, but
Oh,
I think
wow.
I think
Perth
they've
are upset.
I think they
Perth are upset. They are.
I think that obviously with
West
Bevo
Coast are upset.
Wait, shut the fuck
He wasn't going to West Coast,
Darling's
mate.
out.
He wasn't
Oscar's
going
done
to
his
West
Shut up,
Coast.
foot.
let me get my
fucking place.
sentence out.
Oscar's done his foot.
Yeah, I think with Bevo, if he comes out as the sole ruckman in round 1, then you've got to. I don't think I can start without him because as a forward option, he would arguably be in contention for the number 1
Yep.
to 3 forward.
And at worst, he's at least flexible enough to get you a 90 plus at worst
Right.
and be able to swing forward and ruck to cover you through COVID or whatever.
So, and I think is at 482, he's that decent price point where you're like, oh well, if he goes fucking ham, great. But if he only averages a 90, 95, are you really complaining about it?
No, because it's just Heaney, but better looking and taller.
Exactly right. And maybe plays more games. I don't know. Probably plays more games. Actually, definitely plays more games. Yeah, so I actually really don't hate English at all. He's got a huge scope for potential in terms of Supercoach scoring. Unfortunately, obviously, he plays for a Dogs, in which we've all talked about the pie before. He's not necessarily the best tap ruckman of all time, but I just don't think they really have many options down there. And I think if they want to improve, they need to improve around the ground, not in the ruck position. If there's 22 players on a football team, 2 of those can't be Steph Martin and Tim English, in my opinion. They need to have a forward that can chop out, not Tim English and Steph Martin. I don't know how that is a thing in 2022.
All right, we need to move on, boys. We've pretty much spoken about 5 players for 33 minutes. So Bailey Smith is the next one, 472,000. Now,
Avoid.
yes, at this point in time, it's for us, it's
Literally.
an avoid. But it's not common knowledge, Chris. Possibly mental health we've spoken about, and it's been publicly spoken about mental health. Might have had a little bit of a setback on that. Wait and see, but he didn't play the last game, didn't play the trial game. We kind of got information about a month ago that we haven't released because it's it's not really our place.
Definitely not our place.
Definitely not our place. So at this point, I'd be avoiding him in draft leagues, and I'd be keeping an eye out for when he does return. But yes, there is definitely some risk involved in that. I do love him. I love to watch him play. I love
Absolute jet.
Love his haircut. Absolute fucking jet. And wish him a speedy. I want to see him as soon as I can. Let's face it, and everyone does. So hopefully he is. Maybe he's playing this weekend. I don't know, but let's hope and see. But for draft leagues, in the meantime, I'd probably just wait and see and let someone else ride that train.
Here's the thing with Bailey Smith. I think he could be one of the best midfielders in the competition in a couple of years, and that's no slide on other midfielders, but he's got that X factor that I see in Zach Butters, where he just like what he does with the football, his explosiveness from the contest. It's just there's only a
unparalleled.
There's a handful of guys in the comp that have that ability. Unfortunately,
Patrick Cripps.
He plays for a team that has about 5 huge accumulating midfielders that are in front of him. They are. So his roles at the moment is always going to be wing or half forward.
And hopefully he gets enough half forward to make a DPP. Him as a DPP might actually be worthwhile. But again, for draft leagues, I'd let that sort of slide through.
What do you think, Swiz, on Smithy?
Leave for now, but if you're going to keep a league, definitely target that bloke.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yep.
Moving on, let's move a little bit further down the list here, boys, and we can touch on anyone that you wanted in the meantime. But rookies, though. Parker is 102k mid-forward. Swiz, I'll probably get to touch on this one. And also Mcrae. I think Mcrae only came on a little bit, only played a partial game in the trial, so I'll watch to see him, but found plenty of ball, one to watch. As on the rookie front, and I'm going to tag Mitch Wallace in this as well, who's 223k. Who do we have on the basement price that we can keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'll touch on Mcrae because he's a family friend of my wife's family. They were rapt to see him big picked up.
Is he playing?
He's going to be, I think, very similar to was it Anthony Scott last year?
Yep. He's still on the list, by the way. He hasn't just disappeared. Yeah.
They're going to be on the fringe, I think, especially the fact he's a 25-year-old small forward, loves to tackle. Obviously in the VFL he got more up the ground than that, but I think I could see him playing up in that sort of role and getting some games. Bev likes his mature ages coming in and playing those small forward roles. So he's one to watch out. I think he will get an opportunity at some point. Just the question is, will he start? And again, it's very similar to Charlie Parker, their 24-year-old who's played in the Sandful Sturt. But he's a little bit more taller. He's 193 centimetres. So I don't know if he's going to get as much of a go because he's that more wingman defender, penetrating kick. But the Dogs, as we've said, apart from Bellydell, Daniel, Bailey Williams, Crozier, they've got a ton of those blokes.
Exactly.
So I think Mcrae, is the one to keep an eye on out of the both of them.
Okay, makes sense. And what do you think about possibly the comeback of Mitchie Wallace if a draft leagues?
I don't mind it.
Do you think he's coming back or nah?
You got to remember Lipinski's
because he has been the vice captain and done it before.
Yeah, no, Lipinski is a fair call, Chris.
It's there's a small role there, or at least a bump up in mid rotations for someone to take that,
or at least forward role.
Absolutely, and I love Mitch Wallace. Unfortunately, he's completely underutilized in his current role. But I think that there's potential that he could improve. I'm not sure. He's definitely not going to be in standing contention, in my opinion. I don't think there's any chance of that. But I think that in draft leagues, if you jump him on your bench as your last guy, man, you could do a lot worse than a Mitch Wallace. I can absolutely assure you that.
Yep.
And anything else, boys? Draft leagues? I think that's it. Don't pick Shaki.
Yeah, definitely don't pick Shaki.
That's about it.
Yeah, no, I think possibly a little look at Ed Richards.
Oh, yep.
Just because we've seen what he can do. Possibly could play on the other wing. They're a big fan of him. And just probably didn't have the season he wanted.
I think there's also
last year.
Also a case to be made for Taylor Dureya. He's in the leadership group, which is surprising to me because I didn't think he was even close to one of their better players. But he obviously shows a lot in the leadership category as well as on the field. And he does do some great things defensively. But what that does is lock up some really good job security for someone like Taylor Dureya, who I always thought was in their 18 to 22 players and not necessarily even in their best 22 at times. Played 21 games last year, obviously played a lot of games for the Hawks. I think there's definitely a situation where Taylor Dureya could get more responsibility in that back line and could average some half-decent scores. So especially for a draft league, I think that, again, you could do a lot worse than getting something like Taylor Dureya.
And that's why I've got the Bulldogs again as my premiership favourites, because their depth in their side, they've got a lot of mature age guys, and we haven't even talked about your Johannesons, players like that who have even Toby McLean, who have played roles for them in the past. If they were to get some
110
injuries,
average
so
Toby
deep.
McLean, my favorite Toby, the 110 average.
Oh, McLean, you mean the injured McLean? When's he even coming back? What did he do? ACL returning sometime in 2022, same as Bruce. O'Brien unlikely for round one. Man. Yeah,
By the way, Tim O'Brien, I know he's unlikely for round one, but he was training as an intercept defender in the off season. So again, another one to keep an eye on, especially in draft leagues. He's going to go to the waiver probably.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get him. Who was it a former captain that used to intercept a lot? I can't think of his name.
Eaton Wood.
Easton Wood.
Easton
yeah.
Wood.
So
Eaton
probably,
Wood.
probably trying to train up.
I'd
someone.
much prefer his new name, Eaton Wood.
Eaton Wood.
I think was it the Dogs last year would use the most players or the second most players. Like, they've just got so much depth in their team that any player can come in any week and do a role for them.
Sorry, Swiz. Eaton Wood, that's why they never played him on the Pine, mate, because he just fucking
He loved playing on the Pine.
He'd eat his way onto the...
What's your favourite position?
Eat his way onto the field. Anyway, that is the Bulldogs, a highly relevant side for standard for draft for everyone, and we do love to watch them. And that's it, boys and girls. We'll catch up you next time with, was it the shittest team in the league, the West Coast Eagles.
And with the shit.
And, the team that has, was it a struggling list of 20 fit players?
Isn't it Pride? No, it's Pride of the West. What's the West Coast theme song?
Oh, I don't know.
That's the West. That's
with a big sound, is it? Swiz, thank you for joining us, Swiz, mate. We'll catch you next time, and we'll have to have your thoughts and insight on West Coast because we know you speak so highly of them.
Oh, mate, I'm looking forward to that.
You just shredded West Coast, one of the most prestigious AFL teams, with the GWS theme song.
But I will end it just a quick moment, just a condolences to my wife and her family and that.
Swiz. Sorry
about that before, but all the best wishes
mate,
for them.
Don't apologise. I was going to say you go, mate. Chris is used to finishing me off, mate. So it's don't worry about the West Coast, mate. We'll do that tomorrow, and we'll catch up then.
It's all good, buddy.
All right, catch you guys.
Love you, bud.
Bye.